you're in an interview setting, you want to make sure it's a professional environment. You need to mention personal aspects. It's not just saying, I like cooking or I like working out.
First impressions last, that is a true statement. It's very difficult to correct a bad impression.
You really need to do your best to implement everything that we talk about or in our class or in any other.
So they may ask you, I see in your CV, for example, that you carried out an elective here or a rotation here.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this special webinar where we are focusing on the interview preparation, the questions, the audio video setup, your accent and tones, things like that. So we have some very special guests today. And before I get into it, housekeeping wise, I'll be there. My team, Mugda from my team is there. So you can ask questions in the chat and we will get to those questions. In terms of the speakers for today, the first speaker is Francesca Marino, as you can see on the screen. And she's been helping our students in accent reduction and pronunciation. And some of these things are very important as you get into the virtual interview. So we'll start with her, and then we'll have Dr. Yusuf Ali, and then we'll have Dr. Ruwa Al-Tarifi, who's a former program director, talk about interview questions and things to be prepared for. So without further ado, let me invite Francesca. So welcome, good morning. Thank you for taking time on the weekend. Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and then some tips for the students as they get into the residency match interviews.
Of course, thank you so much for having me be here today. I have been teaching English for 10 years at this point. I started my career actually working in Japan. So I was living in Kyoto, Japan for 6 years. So I can definitely relate to anybody that is trying to come to a new country, get used to any kind of, different culture and language and everything like that. I worked with many different professionals, professors, business professionals and healthcare workers, things like that. So I have a lot of experience in regards to working with people looking to improve their English. I did come back to America in 2021, where I did work with children for a period of time, but then eventually I did come back and start working with adults, specifically for accent reduction. So I have been working for a company that focuses on this, working with advanced English learners. I've been with this company, it's called Accent Advisor, for a year and a half at this point. So what are some of my tips? I can definitely say the number one tip is to really slow down, okay? Slowing down when you are in an interview, that is going to minimize or help minimize any kind of accent that you may have. And it's just going to make you a lot easier to understand in the moment. Okay, so that's a big one, making sure that you slow down. Second tip, I would make sure that you practice what you want to say generally. Of course, I know that you don't always know exactly what questions will be asked, but as long as you have a general idea of what you want to say, and then I would also encourage you to record yourself as you practice, because then you can hear yourself and you can make adjustments based on what you hear. Are you going too fast? Like, are you speaking too fast? Does it sound like it's a little bit more difficult to understand what you're saying for this phrase versus this phrase? Okay. So that's going to really help you to kind of pinpoint for yourself what you should kind of practice more and work on. The third example or a third tip would be to learn what you think you need to work on. So, I mean, depending on the language, there's going to be specific pronunciations that are a little bit more difficult, and that's just because of the nature of your first language. Okay. So, for example, if your first language is, if you are from India and you speak an Indian language, right? There's so many different languages in India. But I mean, from what I have experienced, a lot of my students from India have issues with TH in the American TH. So understanding how to what your tongue is doing, where your tongue is placed, and how that sound actually is supposed to be. You can focus on that. For other languages, so like for example, Japanese does not have an L pronunciation. So understanding that you might need to work on your L's or even your R's, because a lot of languages, the R is more forward. Okay. But in the American R, it is back and up. Okay, so you want to kind of like pinpoint some of the pronunciations that you might be that might be a little bit more difficult for you. So I would say that those are my top 3 tips.
Okay. So in general, in a virtual interview, because most of the residency interviews will be virtual, what additional practice or things can students consider when it comes to accent and pronunciation? Is there anything else in the virtual interviews that they have to be aware of?
Yes. So what can happen with any kind of virtual, whether you're on the phone or whether you are talking, virtually like this, sometimes voices can get a little bit distorted. Okay. And so because of that, I would encourage you to record yourself so you can hear yourself, because then it's going to kind of give you another layer to it so that you can be like, okay, I really need to slow down for this part. It seems a little distorted, right? Second thing, the thing about American English is that you do have to move your mouth a lot. Okay. And so what you generally have to do is, I would encourage you to potentially over enunciate to a certain extent. You don't want it to get into the way, of course, of, the conversation or anything, but you do need to open your mouth a lot more than you would think you have to. And I think, I'm not sure if you can see how much my mouth is moving, but you can see it opening up and closing throughout this. So, I mean, really pay attention to that, because American English, you need a lot of space in order to get clear pronunciation in your mouth. So open your mouth, over enunciate. That's definitely going to help, along with recording yourself. And I would even recommend potentially shadowing. So watching videos and then trying your best to copy that person. Whatever you're listening to, you can listen to, interviews, things like that. And then just, listen to maybe one sentence, pause it, try to pronounce it exactly how you hear it. Okay. Again, opening your mouth, really trying to push yourself to get that clear pronunciation to the best of your ability. That's really going to help in any kind of virtual setting. Like I said, whether it's on the phone or through a computer.
Okay. And one more thing before we let you go is, now that the interview season will start in earnest, how quickly can students improve? So we'll have your classes and courses on our website, but if someone is starting, say, next week, how much practice and how much input is needed and how you can help?
Yes, that is a very, very good question. And it does kind of depend on the student a little bit. It does depend on how much you really push yourself to implement everything that we go over in class together, because you really need to practice it. You can't just come to a class and then expect that everything is going to be better, because essentially what you're doing with accent training is reworking your muscle memory. Okay, because that's basically where an accent comes from. You take the sounds that you are used to in your first language and you are applying them to the new language that you're learning, or the second language, or the third language, or however many languages you can speak. So you really need to do your best to implement everything that we talk about, or in our class, or in any other accent class that you may take. It's really important to just practice in general, even if it's not even like a sentence. To give you an example, one of my absolute favorite exercises that I do myself when I study a language is that I actually just repeat the word. If I'm having specific trouble with a word, I will just repeat it to myself anytime I am doing something idle. Like if I'm driving, or if I'm washing the dishes, or if I'm vacuuming, I'll just think about it, or I'll say it out loud. And you can stretch that word out to kind of really slow it down. So for example, if you have trouble with thought, right? You start with the TH, and then the second sound is a short O, and then the last sound is a T. So then you stretch it out. Thought, right? And that's going to not only help you understand where your tongue goes and relate it to, how you're supposed to actually say it, but also it's going to kind of give you more control. So like for some tonal languages, where there is, English, there are, variations in the stress and everything, but compared to like a Chinese language, or Burmese, or another tonal language, Thai, and everything like that, it's a lot more static, I suppose you could say. And so by stretching out the word, it's going to kind of help bring a little bit more control into your pronunciation for English. So that is another thing, to really slow down, stretch it out, practice those particular words. So yeah, that's what I recommend.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Francesca. Much appreciate your time. And for those of you who are interested, let us know, send us an email, or let Mugdha know. And we'll be happy to connect you with Francesca for the classes. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate and you're taking time out on a Sunday.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye. All right, we are moving on. Next up is Dr. Yusuf Wali, who's our panelist. He helps students with their Residency VPS. Has been helping us for at least 2 years now. And, when it comes to interview preparation and the questions, so the first thing is your setup, right? So the audio, video setup, all of that. So he's going to talk a bit about that. He's also going to talk a bit about some of the other tips related to questions that you can prepare. And then what we will do is, maybe he'll have a favorite question. So we'll see who among you wants to answer that. You will have to come on camera. We'll give you feedback, and then we'll see. The other thing which we are doing in this, and Mugdha can post that, is if one of you, or each one of you, those of you interested, can send us a 1-minute clip of who you are, and tell us something about yourself. Send us the clip. Mugdha is going to give you the details. The top 2 clips will get free mock interview from us. Okay. So Mugdha, if you can put that activity. So thank you. Mugdha has put that on. So as we get started, Dr. Wali, over to you, and take it away.
All right, thank you. Again, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. So, I plan on talking just about 3 main things. So number 1, of course, setup, video, audio. Number 2, a couple tips specifically around, how you can elevate your interview performance. And then, of course, we'll talk about a quick question, and someone can, can propose their own, answer to that. So to begin with, when it comes to, your video and your setup, right? Obviously, I'm sitting at an angle right now. Nonetheless, you would kind of sit, shoulder width apart towards the camera. And typically speaking, you would be seated. You would have a little bit of space right above your head, not too much where half the room kind of shows. And at the same time, you want to make sure that you're in a comfortable position where during the interview, you're not leaning forward too much, leaning back. You're not leaning with your elbows on a desk, for example. And it's a comfortable enough position where if it's even an hour long, where you're kind of in the same position, you're comfortable. And it's a position where the camera can also see if you're able to use hand gestures, not over dramatically, but can show that there is some character behind who you are through the, virtual interview phase of this cycle. The second thing is audio. Audio is really important when it comes to making sure you are audible, you are delivering the right messages. Connection plays a big factor in this. So make sure you have a big, a good established connection. So your, speech does not, cut off during the middle of something important. This could be the most important interview of your life that can make or break this cycle for you. So connection is really important. The second thing is, not a lot of people have the best microphones embedded into their computer. The same goes to the camera. If you feel like the camera quality or the microphone quality is poor, then consider investing in something that can be attached through a USB drive to your laptop in the form of a microphone, a camera. And nowadays there are many more, cost affordable options. And if you have other peers who are also interviewing during this cycle, you can, take turns and share this resource if you are in a more resource limited setting. In addition, when it comes to just, talking and presenting during an interview, when you're talking, you look at the camera. When the interview or the panelist is talking, you look at the screen. A lot of people look away from the screen a little bit too much, especially when they're talking. Sometimes if it's overly dramatic, it looks like they're reading off of something, when in reality they're not. They're a little bit anxious, or it's just a subtle habit that they developed. So once again, when you're talking, you want to pay attention and look to the camera as much as you can without coming off as intimidating and locking eyes the whole time. And of course, when someone else talks, appreciate and look at the screen. Now, in terms of just general tips, it was highlighted that talking slower is a lot more ideal, talking with a clear tone, but talking slower does not only just help enunciate or clarify the words you say. It is also a way for you to establish character and establish a presence that you are not someone who's anxious, you're relaxed, and also the type of person that is relayed goes a very long way when you're able to slow down your pacing and control how fast you are or how slow you are when you want to emphasize certain key aspects. If you're talking about your key characteristics, traits that make you a strong applicant, you would slow down a little bit. If you want to kind of skip through minor details that not many people kind of, pay much attention to, and you want to get to the more important nitty-gritty details of an experience, then you would speed up until you kind of slow down a little bit. Controlling your tone and controlling the pace goes a very, very long way. And it also, at the end, elevates your interview performance. I think it's really important that you record yourself when you practice a lot. Recording yourself, play it back, and see what you sounded like. Is it truly the way you thought things were going in your mind? Or does it come off the wrong way? Of course, we're here. We want to, help you go through a lot of mocks and give you all the feedback. But of course, you would have a couple sessions, but practice makes perfect. Grab your brother, grab your sister, your parents, relatives, friends, and keep practicing, because you end up accumulating insight and feedback from different people, from different perspectives, different backgrounds. And ultimately you filter and sift through, and when you come to us and we kind of augment everything and adjust to make it the most ideal performance possible after a lot of that practice. So practice makes perfect. Replay things and see what you need to focus on. And most of all, a lot of people, when they interview, they sometimes lose track of their thoughts, right? And that's completely natural. But what can be repetitive and redundant is using repetitive filler words that I understand this is something that's natural. For example, some people say and so on and so forth. But in a sense, it can come off as underprepared. It is okay that if you get stuck or you are simply thinking things through, that you just take a step back and just be quiet for just a second, collect your thoughts, and then start again. If you feel like you're talking a little bit too quick and you end up saying something that you did not mean to say, it's completely fine. Do not overreact. Do not freeze and hesitate and lose and blank out. It's okay. You can always redirect the conversation and steer it towards the direction that you wanted to initially take the conversation and promote things that you wanted to highlight. And the most important thing that I wanted to deliver was have a certain agenda in mind. You research your programs, you know exactly what a program wants. Different programs have different mission and visions, and it's important that they look through your application, they think you might fit their criteria. So as such, do your homework. Some programs say we want a leader, an educator, a researcher. These are the types of applicants that they want to bring onto their program. But at the same time, if you are not delivering that message, highlighting that you are a perfect fit for their program, then it can be very hard for you to, I guess, get the best score card at the end of the interview as possible, whereas your application kind of highlights the things that they're looking for. So make sure that you, before you go into every interview, and in general, before you even research, what do you stand for as an applicant? By the end of your 15 or 20-minute interview with each panelist or each program director, what characteristics do you want them to remember you by? For example, I want people to remember me as a compassionate physician leader, a leader of the future, one who elevates others. That's my agenda. And everything I say will highlight that agenda because I know that's also my strengths, but also this is something that the program wants in people they recruit. It will be very, very clear what type of applicants they want at their program at the end of the day. So think about these traits, and ultimately, when you end off a question, it is a very nice way to end by saying, that is why I picked your program, because I knew you had X, Y, and Z, and these align with my interests, and I knew that I would be able to grow into the physician I aspire to be. Always tie back to the program and making sure that they see that, of course, you have the good traits that they want, but you guys are a good fit for each other at the end. Okay? So those are the main tips. Obviously, when you work with us, we want to kind of augment and adjust and make you as optimally prepared as possible. And that's something we can discuss in the future and when you work with myself or other people. Now, if you want to say anything, Sir Pawan, but I can add.
Yeah, so a couple of questions that I see, and then we'll get into the actual interview questions. So can we blur our background if we are in a virtual interview? So like you don't have it blurred, but should we blur our background?
So the advice we try to give everyone is that, try to, again, for me in my setting, this is my comfortable space and this is what where I work on a daily basis. But when you're in an interview setting, you want to make sure it's a professional environment. Blurring it kind of just hides things. What are you hiding is the question. Nonetheless, look at the background behind you. If you cannot, people put plants, something aesthetic, a nice painting. Again, look for a background. If you don't have these aesthetic things, simply look for just a white background. It is completely fine. Right? I have certain things that describe me or in my background. That's completely fine. If you don't have that luxury, it is completely fine as well. Put your back to the wall and make sure it's enough space where you look comfortable. But at the same time, just make sure that, there's no cluttery in the background. There's not a bed or there's a window that shines light into the camera and all these things. Make it a clear aesthetic background. I would not blur things, to be honest.
Okay. One more question. When it comes to practice, do you recommend use of AI to practice and record? I don't understand the question, but it is what it is. So AI to practice and record. So I guess if the question is, should I ask AI to answer? I don't know what the question is, so maybe we'll just pass it.
I do know there are a lot of companies nowadays that have been formulating an AI tool specifically used for interview purposes. There's a couple of residency ones that have been more recently budding, and I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of different peers. I've actually tried a lot of these out. And what I would say is you take this with a grain of salt, right? It is, they give you questions and they want you to record yourself, and then they give you very generic feedback. It is not the same feedback that I would give you at the end of your answer, for example. It would be very generic feedback. It would score you from 1 to 100, for example. But if you want to use AI, for example, I know ChatGPT nowadays has that function where you can have an actual discussion with them. You can talk to them as if it's a real person. Again, it can be just a form of practice for you. It can be just something that you can use to discuss. If you're having a back and forth conversation, I think that's completely fine. But take the feedback with a grain of salt, because these AI tools, although they're learning and they're growing and all these things, sometimes there can be a bias. And, if you can use it as a form of practice to have a discussion, but also friends and family and members that you are connected with that can hear you out and give you feedback, that goes a very long way as well. But just take it with a grain of salt. Don't depend too much on it.
Let me take 1 minute because there are a couple of questions. So I do want to show you all, it's not, questions are readily available. So let me just share my screen here. So if you go to our interview prep plan, you click on that, then you will see the various questions. So we have these 4 types of classes. So basic interview prep, behavioral questions, medical questions, advanced questions. So we have more than 35 hours of practice. So if you click on any one of these, so basic interview prep classes, what questions we cover is right here. Behavioral questions, there are, more than 80 questions in all the classes that we cover. Mugdha can probably send you the link so you can look at these classes. Medical questions. So sometimes these New York programs in internal medicine, they like to ask medical questions. And then there is the advanced interview prep. So all of this we do cover as part of our classes, right? So, but the questions, what I wanted to tell you was easily available anywhere. It's not so much about the questions, it is about how you answer it, how you personalize it in your situation, your skills, and then for the program you're interviewing. So if you go and take a look at our IV prep plan, so there is a free mock interview at this point for the interactive preparation. So this is where you will get all the classes, and you can take a look. So Mugdha will share the links, that in the chat, and we can also follow up over email. So now let's move on, Dr. Wali, and talk a bit about maybe the top 4 or 5 important questions, and then you can ask your favorite question, and then we'll see who all wants to reply, and then you can give them a feedback.
So in terms of just top questions that everyone is to be expected to answer in some way or form, number 1, of course, is tell me about yourself, introduce yourself. Very classic. A lot of people will want to know a brief 1 minute and a half maximum answer regarding your professional background, how you got to this whole path of now applying to residency in the States, and of course, a more personal aspect of yourself. It's not just about, hey, I graduated in 2000 X, Y, and Z, and I have done X number of clinical experiences. I enjoy research in this field, and I found the States because I wanted to, grow in an environment that will help me develop the best clinically, for example. You need to mention personal aspects. It's not just saying I like cooking or I like working out. It is more about, of course, the reason. I love cooking because it's a good way for me to de-stress, connect with my family, and in a way, share memories with those I love in the form of food. It's a way for me to continue growing my craft, make it more personal. And that's a way that you can set a different tone, because everyone will say the same thing, but not everyone will deliver the same tone and message and compassion behind a lot of your answers. The second thing is, why us? Or how can we help you with your goals? Or, establishing why you signaled us, in a sense, if it's a program you signaled. Why us? How can we help with your goals? Are they all the same question in the way of, what do you like about us and how can we make you into the dream physician you aspire to be? It's very important that you go through the website and go through the learning or the pamphlets or the material that they give you access to, and make sure that you have a customized and tailored answer for a lot of these things. And most of the time, when you answer these questions, there's of course the professional aspect and there's a personal aspect. The professional aspect comes along the lines of rigorous training, training culture, hospital culture, and so on and so forth. But also, it is about making sure that you talk about their program culture, camaraderie, how people are not just seen as different trainees and they see attendings as superiors, but rather a family. That's something you can talk about as well. But the personal aspect that you need to also highlight is whether you have connections to the area, why you like the area, and how you aspire to be involved within that community and not only give back to the patients, but also the community in that area. So like I mentioned, there's the professional aspect of that question and there's the personal aspect. In addition, a lot of program directors, especially when you're talking about international medical graduates, sometimes they like to see what type of experience you have bringing in. So they may ask you, I see in your CV, for example, that you carried out an elective here or a rotation here. Or in general, they might just keep it open-ended and tell me about your clinical experience so far. And what they want to know is, of course, have you done an internship back home, or most importantly, have you experienced the American healthcare system? Emphasize about that and talk about, of course, and focus on the skill sets you gained from that experience. And skill sets are divided into two main categories. You have hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills are things like clinical knowledge, history taking, documentation. These are all hard skills that require some sort of mental work, physical work. Soft skills are also really important to mention. For example, highlighting communication, empathy, self-reflection, teamwork, leadership. In your ERAS application, when you had to select an experience, there was a key characteristic. It's the same idea. Highlighting these soft skills that you developed as, a future leading physician, as a physician that you aspire to lead by X, Y, and Z. Soft skills and hard skills are really important that you highlight in your answer. And most of all, which is the question I see a lot of people struggle with, is what is your weakness? Or tell me about something you are working on improving is typically how people like to kind of ask it in a nicer way. And it's really important that you don't look for something that's really, really negative, a red flag in a sense. But at the same time, it's something that is understandable, socially accepted, and shows in your answer that you have initiative that you're trying to grow from there through X, Y, and Z experience that you are currently doing. So I guess my question to you all, and something someone can propose and try to, step up and give their sample of an answer, is what is something that you are actively working on improving?
Okay, very good question. So let's see, if you want to answer, raise your virtual hands and then we'll see. I'll randomly select a couple of you. So who all wants to answer, raise your virtual hand. If I see a virtual hand.
Good morning, Dr. Pawankar. Thank you for giving me opportunity.
Okay, go ahead and answer the question.
About my weakness.
So what is something that you are actively trying to work on improving?
Sure. So I would say I have difficulty to say no. In my current position, I'm working as a house physician. So I'm actually responsible for 2 floors. I prefer to work near the nursing station. So most of the nurse comes to me for covering other floor too. So my problem is that I cannot say no. I I actually try to make them happy. That eventually makes me feel overburdened and overwhelmed. But since last week, I'm actually working on that. Even though sometimes it makes the person, unhappy, but eventually, actually, it's very urgent for us to keep on myself on track. So I talked with them in a very polite and gentle way that is it possible to, split the work between two physicians so that we can actually work in a very effective way without being burnout. And another thing, actually, I would like to say that actually I'm working on is that whenever I speak publicly or in a conference or in a meeting, I just make everything mess. I say more, either I say less. So it sometimes make trouble. So I'm actually working also on that. I am trying to engage in more meeting. I am making my own structured roadmap and plan, and I would say it's a mind checklist that is actually working on, so that actually I can speak in a very concise and that I need to bring on, I can. So yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. So yes, Dr. Wali.
So again, thank you for, I guess, stepping up. We kind of just threw everyone here and said, someone please answer. Nonetheless, just from a video perspective, I know it's all of a sudden, just make sure the cluttering in the back is kind of cleaned up, all these things, but I like the painting, the plant. So when it comes to your speaking and whatnot, you use a lot of ums. So again, take a step back. We kind of spoke about that very briefly. So your answer was difficulty saying no. I don't know where this came from, but I've heard everyone says the same thing. I have difficulty saying no. And before you jump to what is my weakness, I think a lot of people need a reframe thing. So I said, what is something you're actively working on improving? I did not say if this is a weakness or not. So mentally frame it in the sense, this is something I might be good at, but I'm also improving. When you frame it as a weakness, you frame it in a negative connotation, a negative context, which is something we don't want to do. We want to promote ourselves during an interview. So you say difficulty saying no. And just from my brief discussion with you, it seems like you are someone who wants to give your 100% effort to whatever task you're given. Not that the issue is I have a difficulty saying no. So again, a lot of people say no. What I would say instead, for example, is sometimes, I like to give my 100% effort, my 100% attention to giving the best end product possible for anything that I do. And ultimately, I find myself, because I enjoy, helping out so many people, is that sometimes I spread myself a little bit too thin and ultimately can't give my 100% effort. And as such, this is something that I'm actively working on improving. I now I lead a floor, I delegate tasks, and I try to make sure that, I supervise and I pay attention to others and I lead rather than just follow. And at the same time, I limit the number of tasks that I do in order to make sure that I give 100% effort to every task that I give. Above that, you need to tell me why, not because I get overwhelmed, right? Your why was I got overwhelmed. I don't want someone who's going to be overwhelmed very easily, right? And at the same time, my concern is that if you, develop enough confidence in your ability to say no, if there's an important patient task and the nature of work is that you're going to have a lot to do. And if, let's say, the senior on the team says, hey, this needs to be prioritized right now, and you say, I learned how to say no, I can get a little bit concerned. So rather frame the connotation, the context a little bit different, right? And mention in a positive sense why you want to develop that skill set of mentioning or being able to delegate and organize your time to give 100% time and effort. And ultimately give an example, like you mentioned, of how you are improving on the skill set. Okay. But overall, thank you so much for kind of stepping up, but just tweaking this and you'll be 100% perfect.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wali, for giving me a reshape of my answer, and I'll work on that.
Thank you, Shamina. All right, so we got to move on. So, Dr. Wali, any last minute tips you have for the preparation before we move on?
I would just say, good luck to everyone, and you guys came a very long way, right? Be proud of your efforts and have confidence in yourself. It's not easy getting to this stage, and keep practicing on your interview skills. You only need one good interview to match. So make sure that interview is the perfect interview for you. And you only achieve that through, of course, putting in time and effort, and of course, having confidence in your skill sets and your abilities. And I'm sure you guys will do amazing. Okay.
Thank you. So we'll continue here. And now it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Rua Al-Tarifi, who's a former program director at Corewell Health. And she's been helping IMGs for I don't know how many years. And as usual, this season also she's helping our students. So Dr. Al-Tarifi, welcome. And as you know, we are in the middle of the interview preparation. So I think what I wanted to do was get some tips on how students should get ready for the season, and then maybe one or two of your favorite questions that you can ask, and maybe we'll have one of the volunteers, students who wants to answer those questions. But welcome, and it's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Juan, for having me. Yes, the interview season is here. Match season is here. Hopefully by now, all applications are set and are in. So now it's the wait time, but that's not time to waste. It's time to prepare for interviews. I always say, the interview is that cherry on the top. So if you get an interview, that means they like you on paper, but that's not a guarantee for a match or a rank, right? So now it comes to you to be well prepared. And I agree with Dr. Wally. It only takes one good interview. You don't need 20 interviews. If you do one interview and you master the skills and they like you, you can match. So this is where you invest in yourself, you put the effort, and you prepare for yourself here. So one of the, basic stuff, right? Basic stuff to start with interview preparation. You know your CV very well. That's very important. Whatever you put in your application, the experiences you chose, the personal statement that you put in. And I missed Dr. Wally's information. I just came in. So maybe I'm repeating stuff he might have already said, but I'm just putting it from my perspective I interviewed for 15 years. So I did interview preparation for 15 years, helped people for 15 years doing this. So, that will look bad on you if they ask you about something that you personally put in your CV and you don't know how to respond to it. That can be simple research project you did. Somebody had interest in that topic. They asked you about it, knew that, and then your excuse is, oh, well, I was just a little small participant of this. Okay, but you were brave enough to put it in your CV as it's part of your accomplishments. So that's very, very important and key. Big important things. Good, of course, these are basics. Virtual versus in person. I'm a big fan of in person, shaking the hand, looking in the eyes of the person. Programs still so and so are doing virtual and in person. Very few are still opting to bring a person in as a second in person. So they might do a first virtual and then bring in a second in person just to kind of confirm the liking of the candidate. But virtual interview made it easier for a lot of people that you don't need a visa to be inside of the US with all the visa issues that are going on now. So, but virtual also puts a lot of effort on you that you have to make sure you have very good Wi-Fi connection. That's on you. You have good lighting. You have a good camera, good eye contact, because it's not as easy as an in-person to have a good eye contact. You have to know where your eye contact is with the camera that you're using. So these are basic things. Then of course the personality, and this is where all the stuff comes in. So show your personality from the first few minutes, because I say the first 3 minutes, the interviewer gets a sense of who you are. And either I, as an interviewer, decide and say, oh my God, I like this person. I really want to continue knowing them more. Or, okay, when can this interview be done? Right? So you do not want to be the latter. So you want from the first few minutes, when they say first impressions last, that is a true statement. It's very difficult to correct a bad impression. So, and I'm talking really simple stuff to start with. So your body language, how you're sitting in the chair you're sitting in. If you're leaning forward versus you're really laid back and your legs, I can see you're crossing your legs and so on. So first few minutes, there's usually an icebreaker. Don't hesitate. There's usually, they don't start right away. There's usually, hey, how are you? Where you're talking from and so on. Do that. Let them love you. What else did you ask me, Polan? I know I'm going into tangents here.
At this point, students, I know a lot of questions are available online, and we also teach that. What are your top 3 or 4 favorite questions to ask?
Okay. Yeah. So I usually have I have a set of favorite questions, but then it doesn't mean I tailor to them, or most of the faculty don't tailor to those specific questions because it depends on the flow of how things go. So I might say something and they say something that leads me to a different direction. Now I want to dig more into what they just said. So be prepared to sideway tracking of things and don't prepare. But most program directors start with tell me about yourself because it's an icebreaker. It gives you opportunity to say who you are from your perspective. And I say, actually, you are lucky if you get asked that and you master the skills of answering it because it's in your hand of telling them who you are, and you can use it as hooks. You say the word hooks, meaning you're planting what sidetracking you're going to take me to. So you might tell me, oh, I love reading books. Oh, now I want to know what kind of books you read. And we might dig and finish the whole interview about a book that we share in common that we both love. You might tell me a very tragic story about you growing up. And that sidetracks to a whole new discussion, but be prepared to what hooks you want to put into that. The other one, and I think Dr. Wally was getting to it, I think this is very telling when they ask you about your weaknesses and strengths. And the goal of those questions is not for you just to list a couple of, descriptions of you. I'm superwoman at night and but it's supposed to be said in a way, when we ask that question, we're really looking for specific things of, we're looking for, is there a hint of arrogance when you're saying things? Are you lying? Are you honest? If you do have weaknesses, and we all have weaknesses, we're human, right? But when you come up with these cliche answers for weaknesses, okay, no, it's okay to come up with a true weak. Nobody's expecting you to be perfect. But and I apologize, Dr. Wally, I came at the end of it, but I think you were saying something aligns with what I always say. It's not to know what it is, but it's to say, this is my weakness, and this is my self-reflection on it, and this is my self-correction on it. Because we all will have weaknesses. We will make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. But there's a difference between, this is my weakness, I make these mistakes, I'm a person who comes in late all the time. It's a habit growing up. I don't know. It's a weakness. Okay, what did I do to correct it? So I realized that this is becoming an issue. But before the program director, before anybody came to say anything about it, I started putting in an alarm earlier, preparing from nighttime, doing this, doing that. And now I'm one of the first people who is in the room. And this is my plan for the next few weeks or next few years, whatever it is. But it has to follow that theme and it depends on how you say it. And please don't come up with cliche answers, because when it becomes a repetitive theme, program directors interview anywhere from 15 to 20 candidates a day. So when you're all kind of having one script that you're using, it becomes that repetitive, okay, here goes that same answer again. So be genuine to yourself, and giving a story and an example always makes things more powerful and more believable and more genuine.
Okay. All right. So what question do you want to ask? so we'll see who's interested in answering, and maybe you can.
Let's go. It's up to you. Let's do the weakness question. What did Dr. Wally ask?
He did the weakness, so let's do something else.
Okay, let's do something different. Let's do. Tell me about yourself.
All right, so I'll pick Sai. I think Sai, you had your hand up. Let me see. Okay. Sai, you had your hand up. If you want to, I need to see where you are. Sai Aditya, I think was your name. If not, I'll go for someone else because you came up first. Okay, so I'm gonna give you access, and you should be able to join and come on video and then answer this question. So okay, I can see you. So yes, so unmute yourself, and Dr. Al-Tarifi is right there. She's the program director. So
thank you, Dr. Al-Tarifi, for the session.
Of course. So we're pretending we're in interview mode. So we'll say, so good morning, Sai. How are you?
I'm good, Dr. Al-Tarifi. Thank you for asking, and thank you for having me here today.
You are welcome. It's great to have you. So where are you talking from?
I am talking from West Virginia.
Okay. So let's go ahead and let's start with, you just telling me a little bit about yourself so we can kind of get to know each other better.
Yes, of course. My name is Sai Aditya. I go by Adi. I'm a medical graduate from Avalon University School of Medicine on a Caribbean island called Curacao. I've done my core and elective rotations in the U.S., predominantly in West Virginia, and working with at Appalachian Regional Healthcare and Raleigh General Hospital. And these experiences taught me working with underserved communities and addressing barriers to care in real time is something that I learned apart from increasing my clinical acumen working under a hospitalist, which I truly admire as to how hospitalists are the forefront of adult medicine. And that also inspired me into a career of being a hospitalist. And apart from that, my friends would describe me as reliable, hardworking, and funny. And I also like to cook in my free time, and especially cook for my loved ones. And when my family is here, I like to cook for them. I think it's really rewarding and a great stress buster. So that is a little bit about me.
First, big no-nos in the tell me about yourself. Do not sound scripted. You sound so scripted. You have a script in front of you, and you even kind of trying to remember, what am I supposed to say next? I saw through that. Okay. It has to come so natural that you're not. You're talking about yourself. This is you who you're talking about, right? This is your story. So it's not something you're supposed to be remembering to say. So forget about the script. Put in key points of what you want to deliver. What is the message about you that you want to deliver? And I always say, this is your opportunity to sell yourself, to attract them to you. Remember I said from the first few minutes, either I want to continue talking to you, or I'm like, oh boy. Okay. So you started with, a script. I saw it from the beginning. Forget about the script. Say key points. This is what I want to say. This is what I want to deliver. This is what I want this interviewer to know about me. This is what I want to hook them with. Okay? Put those in key points. That way you're not focusing on what am I supposed to say next. Okay? So it's okay. And I always say connect. Use things to connect. So I went to this medical school in an island in this. Say something about the island. Say something, you want me to love this island. Say something that this island is famous for. Or say something that, my background, I'm from Sudan. Sudan is this place. I will say something like, in North America and in North Africa, right? We share the Nile with Egypt. You, of course, know Egypt. So say something that, or I'm from this little town in this place that's famous for. Use something. This is called a hook. Now I want to know more about that country or this place or this island or something that you're going into. The other key thing is, and you didn't do that, but just that we're talking about it, tell me about yourself is not a rehearsal of your CV. Up till I graduate, they know where you graduated. They have it in your CV. So just if that's just going to be one line, unless you want to say something about it. So I always say, I graduated from University of Jazeera, which is the best medical school in Sudan. This is me selling that I came from a strong background medical school. So if what you're saying is a waste of words, don't waste time saying it. There has to be a goal of what you're trying to tell me. Okay, either you're connecting with me or you're selling me something you want me to ask you about. You went into this tangent that I got lost into, and I don't know, Juan, if you felt that way too. Loop of whatever hospital. I'm like, what is he trying to get to? You went into several lines there. I'm like, what is he trying to say? What is he trying to say? I didn't get, honestly, Sai, I didn't get what you were trying to say there. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that was waste of words and time. You want to say, I honestly don't know what you, so loop of, whatever. So I graduated from here, I did rotations, and you can use those words of, I did rotations, I like how you said my friends describe me as this, but story connecting, right? So you can say, I don't know, if you wanted to say, I did these rotations and my mentors and the attendings I rounded with always describe me as a hardworking, ethical, and dedicated. I remember a time when my patient in the ICU was in a septic shock and it was my time to leave. But I couldn't leave the side of my patient until we got them out of that time. So my attending came to me and said, good job, Sai. This is great ownership and dedication to your patient. And those words resonated with me. See, Now I believe your story more, right? My friends describe me as reliable, hardworking, and funny. I'm the jokester in the group. So whenever we want to have a good time, I believe laughter is the best medicine, and I believe I'm going to need that in residency program. So I will be the friend for all the residents. You see how this is kind of linking it into, because why do I care if you're funny? But you're connecting it to, don't worry about me. When I come to residency, I'm the one that all the residents are going to like. I'm the one that all the residents want to gather when we're having a call. And so you're connecting it to, why is it interesting to me that you're funny or, I love to cook. I always say, put in some humor, but be careful of who's in front of you. If in front of you is a program director like this, right? Well, what's your name? And so on. And that's serious, straight to business. This is not room for humor. Match your interviewer. If you have somebody who's light and joking and wants to get to your personality, this is room for humor, because humor is the best way to connect. So when you say, I love to cook, you can say, if I end up in your residency, I'm going to cook you one of the best biryanis you ate. I don't know. Say something like this. It's a way to connect. And then, again, a hook, right? What I like doing for fun is whatever. So reading books, biking, some sort of, there has to be a common language of something between you and the interviewer. I like talking about everything. So when they say movies, I say, okay, what's your favorite movie? What was the last movie? Did you watch this? Books, what kind of books did you read? And I will say 70% of the time I read the book you like. So then it's a sideway track for me to kind of talk about that book. But connect, use it as a connection, because you want that to take off from there. And you might buy half of that time of the interview by just hooking them into something you feel comfortable talking about.
Right.
So please stay away from scripts and trying to remember. That ruins and makes the person not hear what you're trying to say.
Thank you.
You're
Well,
welcome.
yeah.
Thank you. That was
Thank you.
insightful.
This was great, Dr. Al Tarifi, and thank you, Aditya, for volunteering. That takes a lot of courage. So thank you for that.
Yes.
And I know, Dr. Al Tarifi, you're also busy, so I'll let you go. And those of you, we've received a lot of texts. So if you are interested in having a mock interview with Dr. Al Tarifi or Dr. Wali and all, email us, and I'll put you, you know how to get in touch with us, but email us, and Mugda will also be in touch. So thank you, Dr. Al Tarifi. Thank you, Aditya.
Of course. Anytime. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's move on. Like I said, interview is an important part, and if you are interested, we can go over it. But I will answer questions that you have, and if you are interested, like many of you have mentioned with Dr. Rua or Dr. Wali, mock interviews, Mugda can put a link as well on how to set up mocks. I'm giving you my email as well here, in case you guys are interested, have other questions. But I do have some time. If you have questions, shoot, and I will try to answer anything about interview preparation, questions, how to answer, and then maybe we'll also talk next week, and we can get some more practice in these kind of sessions. Accent class is not included in the platinum plan. Accent class will be a separate one. And then for those of you who are going into the match next season or are looking for rotations, October through March would be a very good time to do rotations. There are fewer IMGs doing it. You get more patient interaction. You get more connect with the PI or the preceptor. So if you are interested, Mugda can also send you the link for these rotations. So take a look. Many of these rotations do have discounts as well. Sending a letter of interest before ERA's interviews. A letter of interest is always a good idea. You may have already sent it. If not, then send it. Remember that they do receive a lot of interest letters. How to cover old year of graduation? I think the only way to cover it is obviously be clinically very active. If you've not done step 3, it's always a good idea if you're an old YOG. But I think the trick in old YOG is to keep working and figure out what else is missing. So, for example, if you don't have research, do the research as well. Okay, so what else? Is there any other question that I missed? How many months of USCE should we aim for? Probably this is for next season. So minimum, I would say 3 if you're a recent graduate, if you can get it done. If not, if you're an older YOG and you have no visa issues, working whether USCE or any kind of work in the US, the more is better. Okay, so having heard of 2 opinions, I would like to clear the confusion. I don't know what the confusion is. Is it okay to reiterate your CV and tell me something about yourself? The thing you should not do is give a chronological description of I started my med school this year, finished this year, then I did this, then I did that. That is what I think the speakers were trying to say. Don't repeat your CV. Does being in the US at the time of virtual interview help? If you can be in the US, be in the US, because some programs could invite you for an on-site interview, but generally, if you are outside US, should not matter as long as your audio, video, all that internet connectivity, you have a US phone number, all of that. If you have, then you should be fine. I be able to get J or H1B visa with all the visa issues? So yes, there are visa issues. Most likely residency programs and physicians working in the US will be exempt from this H1B increased visa fee. There have been news that White House is seriously considering that. So you should be fine. In any case, J1 is still open, but frankly, the H1B visa fee will not apply to residency programs or the physicians. I think White House has made it clear, but we have to await a final kind of exemption list. Clinical gaps reflect poorly on ERA's application if an applicant was preparing for USMLE. Yes. So sitting at home preparing for USMLE is considered a gap and it reflects poorly. Again, depending on how much that gap was. If it was 6 months, probably okay. But if it was a year, 2 years, then really bad. So you should try to work even if you are in your home country. Okay. Where to send letter of interest? Probably coordinator would be a good person. Program directors are too busy. And unless you really have a very compelling profile, it's hard to get an attention of the PD, but you can always try. What else can I answer? Is there any other question? We'll try to do more of these webinars and get more speakers so that you can get more perspective on how to prepare, what the important questions are. But like I said, important questions you can see on our website. The questions are not important, right? Letter of intent. So letter of intent is separate. Letter of intent is sent after you've interviewed and you're getting ready to rank the programs. Too early for letter of interest. Being a graduate, can I still do hands-on clinical rotations? Yes, many states actually allow you to do that. So yes, you can do hands-on clinical rotations. We have a lot of such rotations in New York, New Jersey, Michigan, Illinois, Texas. Mugdha can send you a list that you can sort through. Is it okay to apply to programs late as I'm waiting for an LOR? Yes. So complete application is better than incomplete application, even if it is slightly later. So, I think a week, 2 weeks, but if you can complete it, that'll be much better than applying now and without an LOR. I was involved in research and published 2 papers presented at a local conference during my clinical gap. Will that help? I mean, it helps, but we all know research you must have done remotely or sitting at home. So it is what it is. It will help, but gaps are still gaps, right? So, are there any hopes for travel ban companies to be exempted for? We don't know. A ban is a ban unless the White House comes up with some kind of approval. It's unfortunate, but you will be on the banned list unless they come up with any clarification. And if they do, we will let you know. Is doing remote research during gap be worthy? Something is better than nothing. But again, if you still think you will have a gap, start working in your home country. So all this remote research is a good idea, but it cannot be done full time. We all know it. How long should a letter of interest be? Can we get a template? I mean, we have these classes, they are part of all our plans, so you can do that. But in general, letter of interest should focus on a couple of things. One, why are you interested in us in that program, and what skills and experience do you bring to the table for us to consider you? 2 paragraphs, not more than that, in the letter of interest. If we say step 3 will be done by January 2026, will that help? Unlikely. I mean, programs will take it with a grain of salt. Unless you have done step 3, planning is always a good idea. How much they will take it seriously, I don't know, because a lot of students will go into the interview saying I've already done step 3. But again, if you don't want to take it early, that's fine. Best time to schedule an interview, earlier or later, does not matter unless it's a pre-match program. Does not step 3 affect NRMP rank order list? It can impact. Step 3 has several uses. So one of the uses is to get the number of interviews you want. For that, you want to do it earlier. If you do it in January, then of course you got to send the results to the program if you want them to consider that for your rank order list. If we receive a virtual invitation for an open house, how should we prepare for it? Know everything that is to know about the program, go to the website, use LinkedIn. Open houses are difficult to interact because there are many applicants, and it's very difficult to differentiate. But some programs do consider documented interest. So if you registered for it, they can pull your email and all of that. Do IM programs offer pre-match? Yes, there is a list of IM programs. In fact, if you applied through ERAS, those who do not have an NRMP ID would be in pre-match, and we have a list on our website also. List of pre-match programs, it's on our website. We'll make it available in a day or so. I don't have the exact page where it is, but if you go to ERAS, any program that does not have an NRMP code will likely be a pre-match program. All right, that was all that we had. Hopefully you learned something, and if you are interested, like Mugdha has said, take a look at our match programs, interview preparation, and we'll be back in the next week or so with more updates and more practice. If you have questions, you can get in touch with us as well. All right. Have a good rest of your weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for watching. We hope that video provided valuable insights for your journey. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And check out our website for details on how we can guide you to a successful match.